The Irrational Confidence Podcast. LSU is traveling to Arkansas. LSU coming off that huge win at night in Death Valley. This is another night game deep in the state of Arkansas here. At time of record, LSU is a 2.5-point road favorite. Over-under in this game is set at 55.5. Fresh. What do you got going on? Because we've talked a little bit about the Razorbacks and Sam Pittman this year. We're a little bit concerned about Sam Pittman's job, but then all of a sudden they're 4-2 right now and have a chance to beat a really good LSU team. This is going to be a tough game.
This is one of those rivalries, though, that people kind of disregard. Outside of Arkansas and Louisiana, people don't really look at the battle for Golden Boot as much of a significant deal. But for these two fan bases, this means something. And for some fans, especially in Arkansas, this is the rivalry. And this is an important thing for them. Get the game up there at Fayetteville. You're 4-2. You just come off a bye week after beating Tennessee the week before. There's energy right now is high for the Hogs. And Sam Pittman, I think the relationship in that coaching staff they've got with Bobby Petrino and him, Taylor Green at quarterback, they've made it work. We always kind of thought, all right, if something goes wrong, is that the whole other wheel's going to completely just fall off? And people are going to be, is Sam Pittman going to blame Petrino? Is the fans going to side with Petrino because the offense is good, the defense stinks? All that's kind of gone by the wayside because they picked up some wins. They've been aggressive. They've been actually fun to watch. I think also makes an important part of it. They've been a fun to watch football team. They're not boring. They're not dull. They're not sloppy. They're not going to be an elite team. They're not going to play for a national championship, but they're going to have a say in potentially who does have a chance to play for a national championship by already beating Tennessee, having a chance here versus LSU. It's an exciting little situation. Can Taylor Green keep that offense on their pace of play, on their down and distance, like they had did versus Tennessee, a very good defense, like they've done all year? Can the defense continue to keep playing at an aggressive high level and tackling at the moment of impact? They got to get off the field, play smart, force some turnovers, use the crowd to your advantage, and keep building. Don't let LSU hang around on the road. LSU coming off a massive win. We had some questions going into that ball game of what kind of team are we going to get? They lost to USC, which USC showing to be a dud. They struggled early versus South Carolina, made a huge comeback, got fortunate by a couple of referee decisions, but ended up winning the game in the end. And then here they are. They show up versus a Lane Train. They play. They don't lead the entire ball game, but they find a way to win in the very end. They are gritty. They're resilient. They play a full 60, in this case, 60-plus minutes. They got a way to get a W. Was that part of the crowd, though? Was that part of the environment? Was that part of Brian Kelly and that team having a don't quit attitude? I think it's a combination of all that because we saw it a few years back when Brian Kelly went for 2 to beat Alabama in his first year there in Baton Rouge. They're not going to look fantastic week in and week out. They're not going to be putting up 50 points and destroying people like 50-20 or 50-10, but they're going to play a full 60 minutes and give you, and they're going to compete. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose, but at least they're going to be fighting. How does that energy and come off that high? How do they carry it over to Fayetteville? Is Garrett Nussmeier and the offense ready to go? Are they locked in? Are they still sort of, hey, we just beat Ole Miss last weekend. We're all good to go. How's that defense where, Weeks at linebacker played absolutely phenomenal. 18 tackles, a sack, a couple tackles for loss in there, had a big stop there in overtime. How does that team carry that juice and go forward? Because you have this game, you got Alabama, you got A&M coming up. There's a lot of the line for LSU. If you can win out, like you mentioned in our preseason preview, this team could be a dark horse in the SEC title game or a playoff team, but you can't let that win and that distraction of that win versus Arkansas become a loss because you just aren't focused. You got to come in, get through attack early. You have Nussmeier's a solid quarterback. You have the receivers. Get vertical on Arkansas. Do what Tennessee did not do. Throw the ball. Get some distance on them. Hit them earlier. Some big explosive plays. If you get the explosive plays, you start to take the shock and awe of Arkansas out, get a couple early touchdowns, and then you can sort of settle in. If you let Arkansas muddle this thing up and make it a 3-0 like they were versus Tennessee or a 10-3 ball game at halftime and let them continue to just keep hanging around, you might be sorry in the end. Just like you did at Ole Miss, you mucked it up, you played solid defense, and you found a way to win the ball game. You can't let that become the opposite in the mirror image versus Arkansas. You've got to come in and be the enforcer and take it to the Hogs. Do not let them have a chance to breathe. If you do, you're going to win. You get past this hurdle, and you can focus on Alabama and A&M coming up down the stretch. That are really big time targets on UFS and LSU perspective. But this is as big as the Ole Miss game was, I think this is a bigger game for Brian Kelly. How is your team mentally prepared for this football game, and do you address it seriously? In 2022, when they went to Arkansas, LSU was on their way to an SEC championship game. They came into that game. It was really, really cold. It was a noon kickoff, and they just looked sloppy. They survived. It was not a pretty sight. They survived. They barely got through the ball game. They won, but it was not a good performance across the board. And it kind of felt like they were sleepwalking. If you had that same performance on Saturday night in Fayetteville, you're going to lose. You've got to come in there, be focused, take advantage of the opportunity, one game at a time, a disciplined approach. I've gone back and forth in this game. For fun, I kind of want to say Arkansas gets the win, but I think LSU has just enough to win. I actually think they cover by 3. This is going to be a nail-biter to the very end. The Tigers survive Fayetteville. Arkansas puts up another great fight and shows that Sam Pittman is the right man for the job there for Arkansas Razorbacks. LSU survives, wins by 3, but it's going to be a game you're going to have to watch the full 4 quarters for.
Fresh, this game is screaming letdown game to me. And I think LSU was jacked up to no end last week against Ole Miss. And they were real excited. They're getting the Rebels at night in Death Valley. And it's a place where hope goes to die. We've heard so many times about how tough of a place it is to go into Death Valley. And especially for that game to, Ole Miss to jump out to a lead and LSU to claw its way back, force overtime, win in dramatic fashion in overtime. It just seems like this is a game where they go, and the air is let out of them. The opposite side of this is true with Arkansas. You've had 2 weeks to prepare for this football game. The question I have for the Hogs is, where are they going to get that rushing attack? Jaquindon Jackson has not been the same running back that we saw early in the year going for 100 yards a game. You take a look at Braylon Russell, what he did against Tennessee. Where's this rushing attack for the Hogs going to be going into this football game? Because what you kind of said it perfectly. If LSU is able to turn this into like a track meet type of game where we get a couple of quick long scores and we're up 14-0 halfway through the first quarter already, and you're making Arkansas turn into a team that they really aren't, then LSU is going to wind up running away with this football game. I don't think it's going to happen. I think what Arkansas is going to want to do is just do a ball control offense. We know that LSU's defense, while it has looked better in the last couple of weeks and had a really good second half last week, they still aren't an elite level team. And I'll go back to LSU's defense here in a second, but is Arkansas able to run the football and control the time of possession against this LSU defense? What you're looking for, Sam Pittman is looking for long, drawn-out drives. I want to see 11, 12, 13-play drives where it's a couple, 2nd and 4, 3rd and 1. Move the chains again. You keep moving the chains and just nothing LSU can do to stop you. And it kind of defeats the will of that defense and it tires them out. Now, do I think LSU maybe had the turning point of their season last week? Highly possible. I think we're going to know a lot after this football game. I think we're going to know a ton about LSU because if they go into Fayetteville and just completely boat race Arkansas, then we're going to know that was the moment. That's the moment that LSU turned it around. That was the key moment for Brian Kelly to kind of get his control over this LSU program that we've been waiting for him kind of to grab a hold of the reins and ride that tiger across the rainbow and like sparks and fire flying out of it as well. Or are they going to get skewered by a pig here in a second? Because all the goodwill that you built up last week could be out the window if Arkansas is able to run on you and being able to take over this football game. With me for LSU, Fresh, last week we talked about LSU and said we wanted to see them get after the quarterback a little bit more. All of a sudden, that LSU pass rush came out to play. The next thing I need to see with LSU, and this is where I was diving into LSU, 3 interceptions on the year. Again, something that is not common within LSU's defense. They get after the quarterback. They get turnovers in there. They need to get Taylor Green to turn the ball over in this football game to, again, stack the box against the run. Whenever they drop back to pass, you're getting after him. being able to get an interception or two here. I want to see them be +2 in the turnover battle in there. That's going to be the stat that I'll be watching. That would probably be the determining factor. If LSU wins the turnover battle, they're going to win this football game. If they lose the turnover battle or it's a net 0, I think Arkansas's got a good chance. And you know what? Arkansas is kind of, because we all thought Sam Pittman was going to lose their job, I kind of started feeling bad for the dude. So I'm low-key rooting for Arkansas, and I'm going to say Arkansas in a thriller, man. Give me the Hogs in this football game.
It's one of those rivalry games where LSU fans, I think, they will admit they're scared of Arkansas because they know what the Hogs have done for them in the past.
Right.
There was, I think, a year, one of their national championship years. They ended up playing Arkansas in Baton Rouge, and Peyton Hillis and Darren McFadden and Felix Jones ran for like 1,000 yards in the game.
Right.
It's one of those that people overlook. It's Arkansas, but to them, both those schools, those fan bases, it means something more. It means the Golden Duke.